next news. Breaking news from the White House.
ICE agents just rammed straight through a mob of masked rioters trying to blockade federal vehicles that happened outside a Newark facility. The footage shows vehicles pushing agitators aside as the crowd screams and surges. This is not symbolic protest anymore. This is open physical obstruction of immigration enforcement right here on American soil. Supporters are cheering the hardball response while critics call it dangerous escalation. The Trump administration is making it very clear that federal operations will not be halted by street theater. One question hangs over everything. How far will these radical activists push before they face real federal consequences? Now, the Republic rests on whether law enforcement can do its job without being physically blocked or politically sabotaged. When mobs treat ICE facilities like protest zones and try to shut down lawful arrests of criminal aliens, they're attacking the border itself. Every successful blockade encourages more cities to copy the tactic. Sanctuary policies already let dangerous offenders roam free, and now activists want to add physical intimidation on top of that. If federal agents back down here, the message spreads that enforcement is optional and negotiable. That weakness invites chaos at every detention center and every border crossing. So viewers watching this need to understand that the choice is very simple: restored sovereignty or open surrender to organized resistance. Now, before we continue, a quick note on staying strong through these intense times. Now, you've probably seen the clip of Joe Rogan sitting with Mel Gibson talking about people close to them who face serious health struggles and then saw dramatic turnarounds. Rogan brings up light-based therapies and how they impact the body at a cellular level. Gibson says it straight, the stuff works. That got my attention because in my own life, I watched something very similar unfold. For a long time, my wife was dealing with constant discomfort and anxiety. It was one of those situations where nothing seemed to stick until we tried red light therapy from Jonathan Otto, and the difference was noticeable within weeks, and she has not looked back. Now, Jonathan Otto, he's made this technology accessible for everyday Americans who refuse to accept feeling run down while fighting for the country that we love. So visit myredlight.com. Use NNN25 for individual items or NNN30 for bundles. Now back to the enforcement story that's unfolding right now across the country. While Newark shows agents refusing to yield ground, another major city just handed conservatives fresh proof that progressive policing is collapsing. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara resigned after investigators found that he deleted evidence during a sex scandal probe. This comes after years of the department taking knees for BLM, pushing DEI hires, and shielding illegal aliens. So the pattern keeps repeating in these deep blue strongholds. Let's take a look here. We've got this. ICE agents just went hardball mode, ramming into leftist rioters who tried blockading federal vehicles in Newark, New Jersey. Take a look at some of this footage here that's coming out of Newark, New Jersey. Absolutely crazy. And ICE is not backing down, and they certainly shouldn't. They should not put up with any of this garbage at all. So we're going to continue tracking through some of this news that's coming out of Newark as we continue our coverage of the ICE activities that are happening across the country. Continuing here, we are going to go into the this is a local report. Even after taking a knee for BLM hiring DEI cops, being anti-ICE, harboring illegal aliens, and shielding Somali fraudsters, rapists, and pedos, Minneapolis PD Chief Brian O'Hara forced to resign amid a sex scandal cover-up.
Police Chief Brian O'Hara is out of a job.
Mayor Jacob Fry says he accepted O'Hara's resignation after allegations he interfered in an investigation. Audrey Russo is live outside of MPD headquarters with what the mayor is calling a breach of trust. Audrey.
Really a lot to sift through here. The original investigation began around this time last year, and the allegations were that now former Chief O'Hara engaged in a sexual relationship with at least one city employee. Now, the independent law firm investigating this actually didn't find enough evidence to substantiate that claim. So where does the breach of trust come in? Well, the law firm did find that Chief O'Hara deleted a city employee's contact off of his city-issued phone during the course of that investigation. Now, that constituted a breach of trust and an interference in the investigation. The law firm also found that Chief O'Hara shared information from the investigation with another city employee after he was specifically instructed not to. So Mayor Jacob Fry says he received all of these findings yesterday morning and by 4 p.m. had plans in place to reprimand the chief.
I informed the chief that I would be disciplining him up to and including discharge, and he resigned. I have accepted his resignation. This is not about being intolerant of mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, including me.
Yeah, you have.
But what I can't allow is a breach of trust.
Was that the same police chief that sided with all of those rioters? Well, let's continue here because we have Secretary Mullen of DHS calling out the exact priorities behind the protests that we've been tracking here.
It just shows where these, extreme radical Democrats' priorities are when they choose Memorial Day of all the days to go out and protest the fact that we took criminals off the streets. Their priorities lie more with protecting these criminals, which are the worst of the worst, than it is actually, I would say celebrating the sacrifice that men and women across this nation have paid for the freedoms that they have to go out there and practice their First Amendment rights. But why Memorial Day? Why would they choose Memorial Day? And that was my complaint, because I was talking to them all day yesterday because, Andy Kim, Senator Andy Kim called me and said he wanted access to the facility because they were claimed that there was hunger strikes, but there was not hunger strikes going on. I said, Andy, give me a little bit. Let me get somebody in there for you. And we ended up allowing him to have access to it. We said, you can't go in there with your staff and film and cause a big show. And then you had the governor, Cheryl, jumped in. Then you had the other representatives and then Senator Cory Booker that was posting. And it's like it was all for show. And at the same time, they're trying to tell me they were trying to de-escalate the situation when you had Antifa flags flying out there. And at the same time, Sean, we called for assistance for the police because they were barricading the roads and they were trying to get through the gates. Not one time did the police respond. Not a single time did the local PD or state police responded to our call for assistance.
Absolutely shameful. Leaving their fellow law enforcement officers out to dry. Mullen nailing where radical Democrats stand on Memorial Day. See the same crowd now clashing with agents outside claiming that hunger strike, chaos, left-wing lunatics clashing with law enforcement as they continue their, quote, hunger strike. Law enforcement are not having it, yelling for the crowd to get back. This is from Freedom News TV.
Your own people steal your shit. Watch it! Back the fuck up!
Yeah, that's about enough of that, right? So the real divide is no longer policy disagreement. It's become two completely separate emotional realities. One side sees ICE raids and police crackdowns as the return of order and national sovereignty under President Trump. The other side views every enforcement action as militarized overreach and civil rights abuse. Because those views cannot coexist, every confrontation instantly becomes a national loyalty test. Newark is now the clearest example yet that obstruction will be met with force and that the era of symbolic protest winning is over. So this fight is about whether America still enforces its own laws or lets radical activists dictate terms on the street. The Trump administration is choosing enforcement, and that choice is restoring order one facility at a time. If you agree that federal agents should never have to ram through mobs just to do their jobs, drop a yes in the comments right now. And then text the words raw feed like thousands of patriots before you to the number 844-840-4963. That's how you get direct updates from me that bypass the algorithmic suppression. And check out the Next News merch shelf below this video for more ways to stand with law and order in America 250. The border belongs to the people who built this nation, not the mobs trying to tear it down.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.